200 years, Britain's mighty fortress at the entrance to the western Mediterranean has been one long story of continual refortification. Today, Gibraltar is still echoing to hundreds of pneumatic drills as its miles of galleries and cabins are extended and enlarged.
Situated at the south of Spain is the British colony Gibraltar. Home to 34,571, not including the apes, and with an area of 6.7 kilometres squared, Gibraltar offers a high quality of life and is a popular destination for many. Having only recently passed a legislation for the same-sex marriage, it is evident that Gibraltar is still working to create equal opportunities in their society. One of the topics in debate for change recently is the 2011 Gibraltarian Crimes Act on abortions. As stated within the Crimes Act, offences against a person, it is written that a person who, with intent to destroy the life of a child capable of being born alive, by any willful act causes a child to die before it has an existence independent of its mother, commits the offence of child destruction and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for life. I aim to explore the ethics behind the sentence, not the act of abortion, and whether it is considered appropriate by speaking to those close to the matter and to attempt to understand how life is for women in Gibraltar having to live by these laws. Following the new legislation laws in Ireland, the topic of abortion laws in Gibraltar have resurfaced. Fights to and against the law have become more frequent, debating whether women should have to fight for the right to have an abortion or whether the preservation of the unborn child is more important. Such punishment is arguably unethical. The fear of being sentenced to life in jail fails to act as a deterrent it was created to be and is outdated. These laws were first introduced in the 1800s, a time of which women did not have equal opportunities or value. For Gibraltar to still be valuing this law without considering how society and the understanding of abortions have both now changed is ignorant.
I think the case of abortion in Gibraltar has become something quite controversial to talk about, especially amongst family and the young children, where obviously a lot of the youngsters are more socially aware in terms of social media, have given us greater wider experiences opposed to older generations here that have a more traditional mindset, and a lot of them don't actually access things like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, where other countries like Ireland, who have recently passed a bill, are more vocal about the whole abortion vote. And I think in terms of education as well, we are quite limited in Gibraltar about what we are taught. Based off when I did, sex education and all that, it was either, you get pregnant, you have the baby, there was no other choice. 8 kilometres in length, everybody is in your business, and you're gonna have your family affect your life choices and decisions. So it's just not as easy as if you were in a bigger city. Things can be done quietly, privately. We have the capacity and the resources available in UK for private abortion as well, for all that stuff. Because here, doctors, they know everybody as well. You don't, even if you were to do it privately, someone will speak, someone will chat, and then you have that whole vicious cycle again of the whole community in on it and potentially outcasting you, and there's no place for you to hide or run either. So,
speaking to my friend May revealed to me the reality of the lack of sexual education the students were exposed to. Granted that the younger generation had more accessible information via the social media platforms as well as the internet, the generation of which are currently being directly affected by this law were prior to this convenience. The lack of knowledge leads to fear. The fear of not understanding the consequences of an abortion, paired with the lack of support in Gibraltar for those who do not fall into socially acceptable family standards, leads to the likelihood of an unhealthy abortion.
Alex Menez has the microphone. Alex, your question or viewpoint?
So I'm 23 years old, and the entire time that I've been in education in school in Westside, basically, I learnt absolutely nothing on sexual intercourse. I didn't know what I was doing, the protection, my rights in general on my body. Then I went to the UK, and in my teens had about 3 or 4 very horrible situations with other men in the UK where, to be honest, I didn't want to have sex with them, but I was forced into it because, like many women who you don't even realize, rape doesn't have to be violent. It is very casual. It can be the question 10 times in half an hour and you eventually have to give in. So those 3 times or 4 times that I was in that situation, the next day I woke up terrified because I don't know what to do. Because not necessarily that I'm scared about having to terminate the pregnancy, but it's that the fact that everything that I've lived for up to now is pushed aside for someone who has not lived my 23 years. And no one, none of you, and none of any of you can tell me how I should live my life and how I should carry on. Yeah. Because I lived for this, and I will not stop it. I will not stop for something that's in here that doesn't know the world. Especially that I love children, I want to raise a family. Why can't I have the right to raise them in the right situation like I want to? I'm not careless, I'm not unkind. There's no loss of love here, there's compassion, but there's compassion for myself, and I matter as well.
Thank you, Alex.
Science, evidence-based medicine, and obviously I'm a feminist. I think most people are feminists in that we believe in equality. I mean, even men, sort of this idea that feminists are just sort of burn your bra type women, that's just rubbish.
No More Shame Gibraltar is one of the pro-choice groups in Gibraltar who fight for better sexual health care and women's rights. This pro-choice movement calls for freedom of reproductive choice for Gibraltarian women and to be trusted to make the right choices to decide when and how to become mothers, free from constraints and without fear of judgment and life imprisonment. While No More Shame Gibraltar promotes choice for women in Gibraltar, they by no means promote the actual act of abortion. They argue that by allowing women the choice and by offering proper support, information and care before and after the planned abortions, there could in fact be reductions in the amount of abortions already going on by Gibraltarian women outside of the country or under the government's knowledge. By taking away a woman's choice to her own body, it takes away the basic human right of health.
Along with patriarchy, there is this misogyny in that I think the older generation, they still have this idea because you're a woman, when are you going to get a boyfriend, and when are you going to get married, and when are you going to have a child, and aren't you going to have a second child, and really you're working with children, and there's that still exists.
The notion that, you know, that no woman in Gibraltar has ever attempted an old wives' tale, you know, any of the, you know, the traditional ways of taking care of a problem yourself hasn't happened in Gibraltar. Is, you know, is, even though, like Isabel says, we haven't had any accounts given to us. But, you know, the notion that has never happened in Gibraltar is, you know, it's just one of those things where women get on with finding a solution to their problem, but they obviously don't speak about it because it's not something that you speak about.
Yeah, it's being taboo.
Going across to Spain with the so many €100 that they needed to get the abortion, with no pre-counselling support, no aftercare, no information as to what was available to them. They were being made to, like most people in a situation like that, sign consent forms written in Spanish. I mean, I can speak basic Spanish, but I'm quite sure that I wouldn't understand everything written in Spanish on a consent form, and then coming back home with this secret inside them, and having to deal with that on their own. Yeah. Education, options, give women all of the information, give them all of the facts, give them all of the facts on what support is available to them, regardless of what choice they decide to make, as opposed to, you know, just pigeonholing them down one avenue. This is what there is, you know, limited support, limited options, and, you know, a take it or leave it basically type scenario, really.
What we are saying is we want to decriminalise that. We don't want there to be a sentence associated, maybe if it's a late-term abortion, a minimal sentence of 12 months, as in other European countries. But this idea of life imprisonment, we want that. They want to get rid of that.
Criminalising abortions do not stop them happening. Instead, it increases the likelihood of endangering the health of a woman involved, therefore not only losing the baby, but possibly the mother too. More shame are proposing the decriminalisation of the act completely, or at least unless it is late termination, unlike other European countries. While this idea seems attractive at first, there is an identified fear that the use of abortions will become a form of contraception if so easily accessible. As well as this, there is the worry of further social pressures amounting to coercions to abort. The predominantly Catholic country promotes inclusivity, yet refuses to accept women who have been through an abortion. Many women regret their abortions and are left with a permanent emotional, psychological and physical legacy, feeling of guilt and remorse, which can lead to serious mental health problems. The lack of identification of the reality of illegal abortions in Gibraltar means these women not only have to deal with guilt, but have to carry it around in secrecy out of fear of judgment and punishment from the community.
But if a lady, due to circumstances, let's put it that way, she feels that she cannot have another baby and she performs an abortion, probably saying that she should be punished for life by a life sentence, I think it's a bit much.
Do you think the education system should be upgraded on how they teach about sex education?
I suppose the education system do cater for these things, They do discuss these things, they are taught. And I suppose if a woman gets to the stage where she gets pregnant, I presume that she knows what she is doing. I don't think it's a question of only of education, because you can just give the bare facts and leave it at that. That's not education. Mm-hmm. One has to look further than just saying an abortion is this or contraception is this. What are the after effects? And I think that's what may be missing. How a person who performs an abortion, how she copes with it after it happens.
So do you think the act of abortion, Jib, should go unpunished completely?
I wouldn't like to say punished or unpunished, It depends on the case, Because I presume, but this is not always the case, that a woman who does an abortion is in a very difficult situation, Now, if a lady goes for abortion multiple times and it's more like an act of contraception, the abortion, I find that a bit quite serious, really,
Mm-hmm.
Now, regarding punishment or not punishment, what are you going to fix by punishing?
Mm.
Education typically follows abortion, so it takes abortion to become legalized for people to say, well, actually, okay, well, the pro-life side kind of goes, well, we need to do something about this, so we'll push for more sexual education, which nobody can really sort of refute, and they do that, and that lowers abortions.
Make a decision on something, you've got to really know exactly what you're talking about, and I think most people aren't aware what abortions actually entail. If you even look at the NHS website, it's all very bland.
They like to avoid the actual subject. When you look at life imprisonment for assisting with abortions, for example, the reason why I think that's something which is fair, and I guess it should just be matched to any, I don't know what the legislation is for regular murder, but whatever that should be, it should be equal for this, because it is the same thing. It's not a cold, calculated decision. It's not kind of premeditated murder in the same way that it is for the doctor.
The interview with Pro-Life drew my attention to the section of the abortion law which focuses on the punishment of those involved. Threatening life imprisonment to any doctor who offers and carries out illegal abortions within the country. James and Krenzer both made interesting points on the power given to those who carry out the abortions, finalising the woman's decision to abort, knowing more of the consequences than the woman. Following the interview, I attempted to get in contact with the head health doctor at the GHA Medical Health Clinic. While the doctors are not permitted to voice their opinions on the matter, one doctor, who asked to remain anonymous, stated that she does not agree with the law and that the choice should be given to everyone regardless of their situation, saying that a child should not be brought into the world unwanted, especially by women who are not mentally or even physically ready. While it's still illegal, they continue to encourage women to make the right choices for themselves and promote abortions, referring them to clinics in Spain, not as a means of contraception, but as a way of avoiding risking their own health by undergoing unsafe underground abortions. While the doctors at GHA believe they are genuinely helping mothers, as identified before in the pro-choice interview, these mothers are being sent to hospitals in Spain and England where they are possibly not familiar with the area or even the language. Sending mothers to alien areas for the treatment not only increases the chance of something going wrong with the procedure, but also worsens the entire experience for the mothers.
For me personally, whilst growing up, I was very pro-life and felt there was other avenues which could be explored other than a termination. This was until I was faced with the very decision of terminating a pregnancy in order to receive very much needed medical care, treatment for my thyroid cancer. It was here where I realised that each woman's circumstances are different and no one should be judged or criminalised for making such a decision. The fact that currently it is punishable needs to be reviewed. There is currently debates happening in Westminster regarding this, and no other country in the West has a life sentence as punishment. It's a healthcare issue. Why should women be punished for accessing the healthcare they need? Women who don't have access to the clinics in Spain or United Kingdom may resort to seeking medication online. Some have made trips to Morocco in order to access the service there. This has repercussions even by accessing the services in Spain or UK.
In an attempt to educate women and take away from the current stigma of abortion in Gibraltar, the pro-life organisation have created a group in which women can go and speak about their experiences in a safe, accepting environment. While the government seems to lack an empathy for mothers who have or have considered the act of abortion, it is evident that there are those in the community who recognise that the fault partially sits within the society of Gibraltar and are making active steps in changing the way Gibraltar perceives abortions. By giving women who have had first-hand experience with abortions the opportunity to educate those considering it, could in fact reduce the number of illegal abortions carried out. Instead, the government of Gibraltar taking these women from society and hiding them away out of shame.
What do Gibraltar's politicians think? Well, the GSLP Liberal government told GBC it has already dealt with progressive issues like civil partnerships and equal marriage. It says its last manifesto did not make any commitment on the question of abortion as, it says, no representations on abortion were received from the countless groups and associations that it met before the general election, and nothing came down the political party channels either. The GSLP Liberals say they would have to deal with the question of abortion in the same way that they dealt with civil partnerships and equal marriage, and using the same processes. First, to consult, then to take a party view, include it in the GSLP Liberal manifesto, and then, if voted back in, consult as a government and legislate as a government. It says the Cabinet of Government Ministers at present has not considered changing this policy.
Following the recent movements on abortion, the government of Gibraltar have released a command paper for a draft bill to amend the Crimes Act of 2011. While the bill looked hopeful for offering a more ethically conscious way of approaching the act of abortion, upon reading, it was revealed that while Gibraltar would still only offer abortion to women at risk, the life imprisonment punishment for anyone who committed this crime unjustly would still be applied.
What we wanted to do was to not move directly to a bill which we were taking through Parliament and its stages there. We wanted to show the whole community, and in particular the groups that have expressed an opinion on both sides of the debate on abortion, what it was that we were proposing to do, and still take into consideration any issues they may want to bring to our attention, any views they may want to express about the letter of the proposed legislation.
While I'm still sat on the fence about whether the act of abortion is morally wrong, I have concluded the punishment of life sentencing for the women in question is ethically wrong. I believe that due to the complexities of each individual abortion case, it should not be given the same sentencing to murder. The impromptu action to abort is partially driven by the lack of education in Gibraltar, paired with the absence of support for those considering their options when faced with the unwanted pregnancies. Without the access to this aid, women put their babies and themselves in more danger. By visiting underground abortion clinics, which more often than not result in the need for further medical attention. Punishing a woman with life imprisonment for acting out on fear and because she sees no other option does not solve what is currently the problem in Gibraltar in regards to abortion, and does not equate to murder. I wanted to create this documentary as a response to the new bill, showing a united response to the current laws on abortion, an opportunity to show the courts that while everyone may not be on agreement to permit the decriminalisation of abortion, almost everyone within connection to the law disagrees on the extreme punishment of life imprisonment for a mother who has committed the offence. I wanted to make evident the moral incorrectness of the life imprisonment punishment by drawing out the pressures a mother faces. Whilst I deem the current punishment inappropriate, I do believe some forms of restoration and rehabilitation for the mothers who have carried out abortions is necessary to understand where the system failed to help them and to act as opportunities for education for those who are faced with a difficult decision.
Thank you.